Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Trying to get my notes up, y'all. Trying to get my notes up. How y'all doing? And although I'm not wearing my sauna suit, I'm assure you I did go to the gym this morning. I just was able to, got my word. I was able to be more organized to actually take a shower and everything before I do my live and take my daughter, before I took my daughter to school. So I wanted to come and talk to you guys today and go into a deeper conversation about perspective, okay? Now, as you guys know, and I'm going to keep expressing this, I'm on this kick about a global mindset. What does it mean to have a global mindset? Have you, any of you, well, I'm not going to do that part, but having a global mindset is something that God has been really dealing with me about, simply because a lot of times when God calls us to something, we don't understand the magnitude of the call. We don't understand the weight of the assignment, and oftentimes we don't even understand the reach of our assignment. He'll give us glimpses of what we are to do, and a lot of times because we see the glimpses, we start to operate within our current reach, and what happens is we get enthusiastic, we get excited, we have zeal, we have all these things that are happening in the midst of our going into the phases of walking in our call. And then things get tight. We experience pressure, we experience opposition, we experience resistance. And I get it, though. If you're like me, the first thing that we do is we start praying, we start binding, we start loosing. And I think it is important to cover our spiritual parameters. But a lot of times, it's not even the spiritual forces that we don't see that's keeping us from experiencing the growth and the manifestation of our call that God wants us to see. Many times it's really something that's internal. And it has to do with our mindset. It has to do with our perspective, our ignorance of our capacity, our scope. Sometimes we don't realize what our influence is. We don't understand a lot of these things, and we just start moving by faith. And I've always said, if you watch previous videos, I am a man of faith. I'm all about faith. But my question is, what is your response to the faith that God, the measure of faith that God has given to you? And how are you taking the time to implement the changes and the transformation that you need in order to walk into your call? Okay. And so I really want to go deeper into the topic of perspective, because I do believe that perspective is one of the initial ways to determine if you are really off, because your perspective it has to do with your interpretation and just your initial reaction to what is given to you. How do you see things when it's brought before you? And it's something we've talked about previously when we mentioned perspective. We talked about how you perceive things, how do you interpret, how do you understand it, and how your perspective is really shaped by. You have different types of lenses in which you view your perspective is really shaped. Then we talked about paradigm and how your paradigm is what determines the thoughts that you experience based on the situation that you are faced with. And so, but let's go back to perspective, because y'all, when I tell you, you have to continue to work on this thing, you have to continue to plow in this area, because it's not a one-time fix thing. It's not a one-time awareness and then all is well. You have to be intentional, you have to be consistent, and you have to be persistent about how you are approaching and dealing with areas of stagnation. And so I want you, those who are jumping in now, thank you. Those who are watching a replay, I want you to take this time to begin to share, begin to let me know where you're viewing from. And I want you to comment as we build, okay? As we build, okay? That's what I want you to see, understand, is we are building towards something that is bigger than us, beyond where we are. And it's going to take a new mindset shift in order for us to truly walk in that new place. The first thing I really want us to really hound on is this: God does not change environments first. He changes perspective first. And this is something that I believe we talked about before. Understanding that when God is getting ready to shift you, when he's getting ready to promote you, when he's getting ready to elevate you, he's not going to automatically shift you into a different physical place. He's first going to change your perspective. He's going to change how you view yourself, how you view the situation at hand, how you view the current space that you are in, how you view the people that are connected in that space. He's also going to change your perspective of how you're going to go to the next level, because sometimes when we're looking to go to the next level, or when God is promoting us, we immediately start mapping out our own promotion. We'll map out, because of logic and reasoning, we'll start to think, this makes sense now. This is the reason why God did this, because I'm going to go this route, and God is going to open up the door here, and he's going to cause this to happen, and so forth. But God wants to change your perspective, because God will use the most unlikely thing as a way of setting you up for success. The things that would make us uncomfortable, the things that we often overlook, the things that seem so mundane to us, that seem so common to us, those are the things that God is going to use in order to really shift you and your perspective. So he has to change your perspective before he change the physical place that you are in. So if you're in a rush, if you are in a rush to get to your next level without doing an internal evaluation and allowing yourself to really allow God to change some internal things, then you're going to, what's going to happen is you're going to end up in a different physical place, but everything is going to play out the same because your perspective has not changed. Okay, you haven't changed. You haven't taken the time to look at things differently, to inspect things differently. And so before breakthrough manifests externally, it has to be revealed internally. Many of the issues that we're experiencing as leaders is not because of what we see on the outside, is actually how we interpret things from the inside. It's how we internalize things. It's how we process things. And I'm going to keep preaching this. I'll be the first to tell you, I was one that would instantly get discouraged when I didn't see support from people, when I didn't see responses from people, when I didn't see the results that I thought I should get from the outside. And I never took the time to look on the inside and say, what is it within me that I need to change? I can tell you now, and if you're like me, you're going to resonate with this. One of the main things that I have to change is on understanding my reach. Many of us are getting frustrated because we're trying to reach something local when God has called us to be global. That's one of the main things that was throwing me off. And so I kept building for things that are local when God, and here's the thing, when you're built for something that you're not called for, you're not going to get the results. You're not, because you're using, like, for example, if you're called to be a global impact leader, you're using global logic in order to reach the local, and they're not going to respond the same because they're only going to respond to a local logic. And then we have vice versa, where we have some who uses local logic for a global mandate, and none of that can work. The paradigms will not fit. So God has to work with you internally first before he can shift you externally. And that has to do with, again, your perspective. Okay? So one of the things I want to talk about is the cognitive trap. What are the blind spots of perspective that we often do not see offhand? Okay? Because we have to realize that perspective is not just about spiritual concept. There has to be a framework in place in order to support your perspective. Okay? So I have a question here. How many of you have ever made a decision where you were sure about only to realize later you had a massive blind spot? Meaning something caught you off guard and you feel like that's something I might have should have caught, but it was a blind spot. And the thing is, a lot of times what happens is we think that we're trying to be wise in our thinking, but in reality, we're just being limited. Okay? So I wrote this here. Your perspective sets the ceiling for your capacity. If you cannot perceive expansion, you will resist it. Now, this goes a little bit deeper from yesterday, meaning like yesterday I mentioned that you have to see yourself in it before you can walk in it, right? But now we're realizing that there's a little bit of responsibility on our end now. If you can't see it, it's not that you won't, not only will you not walk in it, but you will resist it. I mean, I know many of us who have experienced, okay, being in situations where, because we didn't understand what was on the other side of that decision, we either avoid going that way, later to find out it was a missed opportunity. To find out, or even to the decision that we do make. Let's talk about that. The decision that we do actually make creates bigger problems for us. And then we wonder, well, God, I really thought that I was going to be here by now. I really thought that I was going to be walking in this or experiencing this. But the reality is, because you could not see it, you resisted the possibilities and the opportunities of actually walking in that. We call that self-sabotage. So you have to really take a pause. You have to take a step back. And you have to ask the question, what am I resisting in this season? Let's be honest. What am I resisting? And if what and is that which I am resisting connected to where God is actually trying to take me? We're done with this blind faith thing, y'all. We're done with approaching God in an ignorant way. We know that God, his thoughts are above ours and his ways are above ours, right? We understand that there is so much in God that we have yet to tap into. But we cannot ignore the fact that if we carry his spirit, that we have some type of connection to the infinite knowledge and the understanding and the intellect of God. So my question to us as a body is, when are we going to leverage the knowledge of God in the earth? Do we think that the wisdom of God is just so we can get to heaven? Many of you are in poverty because you choose to. And your choice is because you refuse and you resist the changes that you need to make in order to see the prosperity that God has been given to you all along. And to the point where that prosperity will then begin to manifest into tangible and monetary value and growth. I love what Marvin Sapp's new wife said when she was talking, I don't know if y'all saw that viral video of her talking about their wedding. And she said, not everybody in the church is broke. Huh? That is a restriction that's connected to religion. Listen, okay, let me stay on track. This is why I got notes, because y'all know I can go on a tangent. Okay, so let's talk about local versus systems thinking. Okay, when you're thinking global mindset, you cannot be thinking local. I'll put it this way. If you are in business, then you understand that, and some of you might not understand, so let me educate you. And I can talk about this with photography, right? So somebody comes to me and say, I want to do photography. My response isn't the same as the angels in heaven rejoicing over someone who wants to be saved. So I'm not going to go into the, yay, you want to be a photographer? I'm so excited. Listen, life is about to change for you. Everything is about to be so good. Oh my goodness, you are about to make a lot of money. Or that's not my response when people ask me or tell me that they want to be a photographer, or they'll say, can I shadow you and learn from you so that I can get into the works? My response to them is, well, what is your niche? Oh, I just want to take pictures. I just want to hold a camera and just capture stuff. And I'm like, well, who's your audience? Well, I think I want to do this and I want to do that. And I said, well, are you prepared to create two separate marketing plans? Because they're not related. And so, like, for example, and this is something that I had to learn, family portraits versus branding. The focus, the skill, the education or the learning curve, the audience, the marketing are completely different even from branding to wedding photography. And so I'm saying this to say, this is how global and local mindsets are in comparison to wedding and branding photography. You're going to have a different audience. And a different audience requires a different language. It requires a different flow, a system. It requires a different communication. It requires different consistencies. So when you think about global versus local, your thinking has to be different. It's going to require a different thought process. If this is making sense, let me know. Leaders with a global mindset don't just look at isolated events. They look at the underlying structures. They don't just seek quick fixes. They seek long-term transformation. You have to be in it for the long run. When you're talking about global mindset, it's not about what can I do to do this immediate change. You have to have patience. You have endurance. You have to know exactly what it is that you're trying to reach, and know that the journey is not always going to look like the end result. This is why I think many of us get frustrated in the process. and we fold back to our local thinking. And we say, well, that was a good ride. Let's get back to our norm. It was fun while it lasted, but we don't realize that we were at a crossroad in that moment and we had to make a decision. We didn't realize that we were positioned for a decision in that moment when we decided that we're going to go back to our normal way of doing things. Why? Because we're experiencing that resistance. We're experiencing that tug. And like I said in a post yesterday, I put on a quote, I said, many of us who are going through a mindset shift, you think that you're experiencing warfare, but in reality, you're just experiencing discomfort because you are being pressured to think and respond differently. A local perspective blames individuals when things are going wrong. Look straight ahead. Who do you blame when something is off? This is why I wanted to take a deeper dive into perspective, because perspective has a lot to do with the wiring of your brain. You cannot go into this season looking at everybody else and not willing to point the finger at yourself and say, how did I contribute to this outcome? Or how did I not contribute? Or what did I resist in order to get this outcome? A global leader or a global perspective examines the system that produced the outcome. System. We're going back to system. System is not just this technological automation that you go into the computer and you set up. Your systems is also in your thinking, in your language, in your response. All of that is connected to systems. So many of us haven't even evaluated our thought systems. A local perspective is driven by a reaction to the present. But a global perspective or a kingdom perspective is driven by a revelation of the future. What is that saying? That's saying that my perspective and my stance doesn't change based on the hostility of the situation. Just because this situation is coming to me like this doesn't mean that I'm going to immediately move. Because I have a goal, a long-term goal in mind, the vision that God has given to me, and I have to stay on track for that, even when things pop off in the middle of the process. Because you got to ask yourself the question, like, have you ever stopped and asked yourself this question, well, how else am I going to get there? Have you stopped to ask yourself that question? And not say when, I'm talking about when situations arise, when you are faced with challenges in your journey. That should be your first question you ask, is how else am I going to get there? I want you to put that in the chat, in the comments. How else am I going to get there? How else am I going to get there? Many leaders fail not because they lack resources, but because they are applying linear, local solutions to complex systemic problems. You cannot solve a global assignment with a local lens. Better yet, you can't solve a global problem with a local solution. So there has to be some stretching along the way. Okay? Now, I want to really go into our cultural perspective, because honestly, I think a lot of problems that we have is we're so close-minded to the external support that we receive, and we only look for support to those who look like us, sound like us, walk like us, smell like us. Like, so we're only looking at that, but we have no cultural intelligence, and we don't understand how to leverage cultural differences in order to obtain a global mission. Okay? So to lead globally, you have to develop cultural intelligence. This is still a part of your perspective because it has to do with cultural perspective. Okay? The danger that we often mistake our, what did I say here? The danger is that we often mistake our cultural perspective for absolute truth. Ooh. We mistake our own cultural perspective for absolute truth. Meaning, for example, there's the debate about grits. Does sugar go in grits, or is it salt and pepper? And what we do is we take that, which every decision or choice from that is based on cultural perspective. Let's be real. And nobody wants to say, well, there is no wrong answer to it. You can do sugar or you can do salt. But, I get it. We like to have fun with these debates. And we are now creating a cultural perspective, and we're turning it into an absolute truth. Look at, see? Excuse me. And so what happens is now we're on social media and we're like, no, that does not go in grits. This does. And we turn it into absolute truth. This type of thinking is what limits us from actually reaching a global audience. Okay? Where did I put this? So when we talk about cultural intelligence, I'm reading my notes so I don't get off topic. This is the ability to understand, adapt to, and leverage cultural differences. It requires humility. It requires you say, the way we do it in my city or nation is not the only valid interpretation of reality. But this is the other problem that I have, is that it's not that we say that what I do here is what we do here, but we're not even open to understanding how others do it. And we stuck in this mindset of, well, this works for us. How many of us heard that before? This works for us. And I get it if we were thriving and excelling, but we're talking about we're struggling. We're struggling to maintain relationships. We're struggling to sustain support. We're struggling to manage systems. And we have the nerve to say, well, this works for us. What they do for them is for them. So we have to humble ourselves, and we have to say, okay, I realize in this country, in this community, in this church, in this organization, they're doing this and they find it to be successful. What can we compare their parameters to ours to see what could work, and maybe what can we adjust to kind of fit what we're doing? But I like to learn what that model looks like. That is a step toward a global perspective. For kingdom leaders, cultural intelligence means we value every nation and tribe, but we maintain our alignment with kingdom truth over cultural norms. So that means, what is your standard? What is your core value? Is your core value set within kingdom principles so that you can value the differences of other cultures, but stay true not to your own culture, but to kingdom culture? Okay. It's 9:45. So let me go through. Let's do this activation together. Okay. Actually, no. Let's do this. I'm going to add, this is a question that I want you to ask yourself, okay? And then we're going to quickly run through a paradigm shift. Ask yourself, what is a cultural norm that you've been holding on to as kingdom truth? Because God might be dismantling that to expand your reach. What is a cultural norm that you've been holding on to and positioning that as kingdom truth? Because God might be wanting to take that to dismantle so that you can have a global reach. So the ultimate goal for perspective change is really a paradigm shift. A paradigm is the entire worldview, this is what we talked about, that governs your reality. The paradigm shifts isn't just small tweaks in your methodology, it's the fundamental change in your entire outlook. You have to do a complete sweep. Okay? What does that look like? What is God saying about this? You have to ask the right question. Revelation and renewal changes perspective. It has to be a continual process. You just can't do it once and say, well, thank you, Lord. I feel good. I feel refreshed. I'm ready to tackle on those giants. No, because that old mindset is going to creep back up. So how do we activate this? Okay? How do we come out of a local perspective into a global perspective? How do we come out of a religious perspective to a kingdom perspective? How do we come out of a closed-minded place to being open-minded? So all of these things are surrounding the same thing, okay? Number one, I want you to audit your inputs. Audit your inputs. Voices, environments, right? What are some of the things that are directly in front of us that we're constantly feeding ourselves, that we're constantly watching, that we are unconsciously learning? I want us to become more aware and to start thinking, what is entering into my gates, my ear gates, my eye gates? What are we saying, right? What are we listening to? What are these things that we keep collecting and hoarding that's keeping us in a local mindset? Okay? I want you to also challenge your certainty. Okay? Challenge your certainty. Where are you most certain that you are right? That's a hitter. That should step on some toes. It's not the things that we are uncertain about that often keeps us in cycles. It's the things that we are certain to be right about. Because those are the areas that we tend to be more stubborn in. Those are the areas that we tend to be more resistant in. Where I'm right about this, so I'm not going to. Just think how that sounds outwardly. Because I'm right about this, I'm not going to do that. So you need to start looking at your certainties. Number 3, I want you to evaluate your jurisdiction. A lot of times the problems that we're solving are not actually local problems. They're global problems, but we try to start solving them on a local level. And it creates a frustration between both parties, because now you're trying to fix something they're aware that there's not even a problem in. And it's like, well, now we can't work together. But I want you to start evaluating your jurisdiction and ask yourself, is the problem that I'm starting to solve, is this even found locally? Because sometimes it's not. And even if you do find it locally, That does not mean to start putting in local infrastructures and systems. No, you put in global, because more likely if a problem is happening here, it's happening in other places. Okay? So I leave you with this thought. I wrote this here. This is my note. And I'll leave you with the thought. It says, remember this. Perspective is the gateway. If it is wrong, everything built on it will be limited. But if you let God shift your perspective today, your capacity, your assignment, and your global impact will inevitably follow. If you change your perspective, a lot of things will just follow afterwards. You will find yourself wrestling with unnecessary things. You know, I find myself not even frustrated about people's responses, their lack of show-ups, their inconsistencies. Like, I don't even find myself frustrated, because what they don't realize is they're actually partnering with God and helping me think larger. Y'all, I'm starting to realize, wow. I was sharing with a sister of mine this morning. I said, we get in the church, we get so caught up because we don't get a mic to speak within the four walls of the church, but God has given us the entire earth to speak. And we'll sit there and pout, and we will walk right into depression. We will walk right into bitterness. We will walk right into unforgiveness, because we don't have a space within 2 hours of the week to speak within a small parameter in a building for just a group of people that are just in the space, when God said you have 7 days and hours within a plus to speak what I have given you to speak. Change your perspective. Stop trying to build your mantle behind the pulpit. Instead, build the pulpit wherever your mantle lies. We're called for global, y'all. We're called for global. We are called to reach beyond what we are seeing with our natural eyes, but we have to first change our perspective. And you have to first know that you're called for a global reach. I don't care. I can sit here and prophesy to you for the next 24 hours, speaking in tongue. You can have angelic visitations. You can have all of these things. But until you believe God that he's called you for a global reach, none of this is just going to, it's almost like the seed in the sower, where you're going to receive this emotionally, but because it won't take root, as soon as the pressures of life and the deceitfulness of wealth come, it's going to knock you off your feet. And you're going to end up in the same cycle like, God, this going to be my year. This going to be I prophesied greatness this year. This is my year. And then by the time February hit, you're in the same cycle. You can't expect new without doing something new. But you can't do something new without first thinking new. If you expect something new, you got to do something new. But in order to do something new, you have to think new. Huh? Easier said than done, but possible. And it does require work. So that's what we're going to do in this season. We're going to work. We're going to work. Okay? We're going to put in the work, and we're going to allow ourselves to grow. We're going to allow ourselves to expand. We're going to give ourselves grace. Okay? Because to change your paradigm is not an easy journey. Many of us, we've been walking this and living this way. We've been thinking this way for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So do you think that you're going to change the way you think in 10 minutes after living this thing for 50 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's going to take time. But that's what we got, because God will redeem time. And he's going to make sure that in the process of you growing and expanding and shifting your paradigm, that your effectiveness will not change. Your effectiveness will still be strong, that you will still be efficient in the things that you're doing, while he is expanding you, while he is stretching you, while he is applying that pressure. Okay? So I say this and I say this again. A lot of this that we're talking about with this global mindset, you can hear more of it in two ways. The first way is we have our builders training the first and third Mondays of the month. So the next one is actually this coming Monday at 6:30. We are actually at a college campus teaching this, but we've also opened this up to Zoom. So if you desire to be a part of this training and be a part of what we're teaching behind the closed doors and going more into depth about the global mindset, then go to warzonglobal.com. And when you scroll down, you will see the builders training and available. And it's donation only. We ask that you donate a minimum of $1. Come on, $1. And you can either come in person. It is limited seats, so first come, first serve when you sign up and register, or you can register for Zoom access. Okay? And that's just $1, like I've stated. All right? The other way that you can be a part of what we're teaching is, you might see from our Warzone Global Ministry page that we have our Builder Summit that's approaching in August. And right now we are in our early bird sales of $97 for 2 days of VIP workshops. And this is where we're going deeper into this thought process of the paradigm and understanding perspective, capacity, influence, scope, cultural intelligence, systems thinking. Like, these are the things of global mindset that we need as leaders. And I'm not talking religious leaders. I'm talking about leaders who know that they're called to make real impact in their communities, to lead organizations, to lead nations, to lead regions, to lead communities. Like, innovative leaders. This is what the VIP sessions are for. Okay. And then, of course, we have our night sessions, which are free to the public. But we need you in the building, because we need you, number one, to see that you're not alone to this global mandate. Because a lot of times when you're before your time, it seems like you're walking this journey alone. Who do I have to support, for support, to just talk to glean from, to bounce ideas from? And I'm learning that there are many of me's out there that are called for global reach and needs that support, that community of, hey, I'm reaching this level of resistance. I need your prayers. I need that pep talk, right? That's what this gathering is for. So, and this, I don't care if you're not in the St. Louis region. If you are not in the St. Louis region and you need this, you need to register and get that flight to come down to St. Louis and be a part of this summit, okay? warzonglobal.com, both events you can register for, those builders training and the builder summit, okay? All right, that's all I have for you all. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for our fellowship this morning. Thank you for allowing us to understand our perspective. Thank you for revealing within our hearts the areas in which we need to change our perspective in. Areas that we need to challenge are the way we think, the way we respond, the areas that we are sure that we are right about. Father, help us to really dig deep and be intentional about what it is that you called us to do. Father, I cover every person, God, that is called to this global mandate, that you will give them the courage, the boldness, the confidence, the community, the conversations, the encouragement that they need to keep building in this season. Father, that every resistance that come their way builds a greater muscle for strategies, a greater muscle for systems, a greater muscle, Father, for blueprints, that they will not back down just because of opposition, but it will be areas of opportunity for greater growth and expansion upon their lives. Father, allow them to meet their Corneliuses, allow them to meet those who are called to be gateways into a greater reach and a greater expansion on their life. God, I thank you. All you need is one opportunity, Father, for us as builders. So God, we are open and we are ready to receive from you. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. See y'all tomorrow, same time, 9:15, as we are building with a global mindset. Be blessed.